Just a long lost look in your eyes brings out a love that I can't disguise. So take me down to the places I've never seen. Or don't you try to kill me with kind. It's just your love that's driving me wild. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, into the light we go, into the light we go. From the darkest night, from the fire inside, into the light we go, into the light we go, into the light we go. It's just a long lost look in your eyes, brings out a love that I can't disguise. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, to the light we go.
Years later, we are back here for our second match of the night. It is going to be KSV versus KT. A huge matchup as KSV look to prove that they are part of the top four. And KT themselves looking for some more consistency on the Rift.
Yeah, very interesting matchup between these two teams. KSV, they've had a really big struggle in recent matches, losing to SKT and the Rocks Tigers previously, losing to Kongnu Monster. KT Rolster did win their last matchup. They still feel like a top 3 team in Korea. They really need to pick up another victory here to end their first round robin anywhere close to Kingzone Dragon X.
Both these teams looking for a big win. They have one obstacle in their path. That is one best of 3 up against one of the best teams in Korea. Let's introduce those teams with Kim Soo-hyun.
그 기세를 다시 한 번 더 보여주길 기대해 봅니다. KSV.
KSV, former Samsung, looking good as of late, but they want to look even better. As I say they're looking good as of late, but actually they've taken 2 losses recently. So
stop lying. No fake news over here, Valdez. We're about the real hard truths. And the hard truth is that Haru will be starting in the jungle again. He started in there last series and we said, okay, this guy's fitting the meta better. This is the way they need to go. Looked outclassed. They had to sub in Ambition in game 2. So I feel like the jungle revolving door hasn't helped KSV, and honestly, they've kind of been all over the place. Is that Crown is unfortunately suffering from a toilet issue, so is not in the mid lane.
Look at, I think that's Haru just like showing off everything that Crown does. You know, showing them the padding that he uses as well. We won't reveal the brand though, as we would have to pay for the, they'd have to pay for the advertising, as you do on Korean TV.
We do not have any subs, so it will be Crown eventually. He's absent in the mid lane. The toilet issue has overcome him, but hopefully he will be returning soon. This man knows about a toilet issue.
He knows. Let's introduce our second team tonight.
꺾고 싶다. KT Rolster.
KT Rolster needing no introduction. They don't have any subs, not any that are going to play at least, Papa Smithy.
But what about Rush?
Not any that are going to play, Papa Smithy.
Rush and Yukal available, but not playing. Score will, of course, start. Close to 570 games in his long career. It's a must-win match, so understandable that Score will be playing game 1. Fans will ask when Rush will be subbed in. I think he'll be considered in certain best-of-3s or maybe against one of the lower teams in Korea, but against a team that's looked vulnerable in the jungle, you probably have to start a starter. That's why Score will be run here. And KT Rolster, they are 6-2. They can move to 7-2, only be 1 match behind Kingzone Dragon X, but still, KT Rolster have those sky-high expectations and still kind of reeling from the 2-0 clean loss to Kingzone Dragon X just a couple of weeks ago.
Pawn doing his thing, getting out his ruler, making sure everything.
Can you explain that to the fans? Actually, the ruler phenomenon is a very Korean esports one.
Yeah, well, a very famous pro gamer. You guys may have heard of him. It's not from League of Legends, but Flash, a StarCraft pro gamer, used to do this all the time. He used to measure everything from the height of his chair to the height of the monitor, where the mouse pad and the ruler are placed on the table. And other players do it too. Pawn has picked up the habit. He wants to make sure that every time he plays the game, his equipment is exactly the same.
Guys, we saw on the KT side that it's 5 years as a professional player coming through for Deft. That's the big milestone. We had so many different gifts delivered to us by the Deft fan base. From what I understand, it's Chinese fans and the Korean fans, both with separate gifts. Everyone loves Deft. Everyone loves an alpaca. The world champions, we've been talking about KSV. They've really been struggling, Valdez. They may have beaten BBQ 3 series ago, but I looked at my notes. I had a big question mark next to it. It was 2-1. Honestly, they could have lost that series 2-0, just like the FLICKR series earlier in the season. KSV has been anything but clean, and the numbers don't necessarily look too kind for them either.
Yeah, I mean, 1.32 KDA in the last 5 sets that they've played. That includes their loss to Kongdu Monster, the 0-2 that they picked up, the 2-0 against MVP, and the close 2-1 against BBQ, even though those are games that they are playing.
So yeah, the last 5 games against SKT and Rocks have been the really low numbers. The previous 14 better, as we have 19 games played this season. It's very difficult because in Korea we say sets, matches, games, all sorts of fun vernacular. They've been bad recently is what you guys need to know. And then we have the historical record where KT Rolster have always had the nose ahead of Samsung. Famously, I believe 17-0 was the win streak. But when it most mattered, 2016 and 2017 Worlds qualification, it was Samsung Galaxy just outclassing them at the end. So old enemies here for KT Rolster. Whenever they play, they have been denied. So KT Rolster, it's regular season. Surely KT Rolster 2-0 is going to be the expectation of a lot of people at home. But we have to see game 1. I feel like if KSV lose game 1, they will lose 2-0. But if KSV can actually show an approximation of their form earlier in the season, they certainly can beat KT if they play at their strongest.
Can you handle me? That's what probably Deft is saying to Ruler, I'd say at this point.
In terms of play in the LCK, absolutely. And solo queue, Ruler is still bossing it up. Still has his duo-only account with CoreJJ, LCK LPL, and LPL LCK at rank 5 and 6 equal. They have played exactly the same games. They've only played together. But recently, Rulers look a bit wayward in the LCK, and Deft may be our best performing AD carry after Teddy's had a couple of down games. When you look at the AD carries, you got to look at the other side. It's their better halves, the supports, CoreJJ and Mata. Looking at the numbers here, not too much to be able to separate them. Mata, predictably, he loves putting down them wards.
Yeah, just overall better stats, as you guys can see. It is going to be a battle for vision, as it always is at the top level. Not just these two guys, but the entire team, and also other teams up at the top. So,
hey, it's Crown.
Wow.
I think he's there. I saw him in the corner of the screen.
He was over. Yeah, this is not Crown for you guys who are new. I know they made, you know, they have similar glasses, but
I saw his hair in the corner of the screen, so I think he's there. Let's get the confirmation, Spo TV. Get a camera in there. Show us the mid laner. Hopefully the toilet issue has ended.
They have the tape on the headset. Not sure if that's to stop from showing the brand or just something that Mata does.
What we're going to do is bring you our second series on patch 8.3. And the first one was a barn burner. SKT versus Kongdu Monster went to all 3 matches. Spoilers, SKT won, but it's closer than you might expect. Patch 8.3 is still showing us new things. We've seen the Scion priority. We still haven't seen the Victor. And when we do get Crown in his seat, will we just see the return of the famous Crown Victor? Or maybe even a ban? It's a possibility. And Pawn was a big player of the Victor himself. So we didn't see Victor in our first series. We might see it here.
This is definitely the series to see it. These 2 mid laners, as you mentioned, definitely going to come in. I doubt we'll see a ban. We were talking about this before. It seems like, you know, you're just not really going to ban out Victor. There's just too much stuff to ban, but definitely an option here, especially if there are a lot of targets against the mid lane. would definitely expect Crown to be playing that. I just hope he doesn't go farm up in the top lane.
That's what he does.
And let his team die elsewhere on the map. But either way, we'll get to see, guys, as we're going to be jumping into pick and bans for game number 1 right now. Right now. Off we do go. Really excited to see how this pick ban is going to work out. Definitely some targets we may see, especially because Haru is playing today, a guy who is well known for just one champion. We'll see if KT decides to ban that out here.
We do see that KSV on the blue side will not be visiting the Galio. With the form that Ruler and CoreJJ have shown in solo queue, I would have actually liked to see Crown jump back on the Galio and play around the bot side. Of course, can still do that, depending on the draft, but no Galio. Of course, it was Faker's Galio crushing Crown's Cassiopeia the last time we saw KSV in their 2-0 loss. Deske Telecom T1 still learning about trends on patch 8.3, but the Ezreal priority has not abated. We saw no Azir in our first series, which is a bit of a surprise. There was some nerfs to the early laning phase for the Azir. Some global fans there. KT fans, oh boy, they've had some struggles. But maybe this is their year, Valdez, is what a KT fan says every year.
Yeah. Who knows? This might be the year. I'm really feeling it this time, Papa.
Are you getting excited?
No, I'm just
you better
feeling
not.
it.
You're going to have to apologize soon. We know how this goes.
I know. I've been down this road, Papa.
Well, they don't want to have Malzahar Khan, a big duo that KSV have been enacting in solo queue. So you don't often see it banned in the first round on red side, but they ban away the Rakan, denies the Xayah in many scenarios, and they just give away the Zoe. The Crown did play in the second game against SKT. Crown Zoe was previously undefeated, now 5-1. But KT just seem happy. They know exactly what they left up, and they're going to play the Malzahar even after the nerf on 8.2 and just try to play through mid lanes. So probably going to be a damage jungler, maybe a Kha'Zix taken. The final pick on the red side here for KT.
Whereas Haru seems to have his sights elsewhere, thinking about another kind of engaged champion. We've been seeing some more Zac. We saw it in game number 1 of SKT versus Kongdu, and then from there on out it was banned. So Haru thinking about it. Looks like it will be locked in as the timer runs out here. So some more Zac play.
Only his second game ever on the Zac. Kind of understandable. He's been very top-heavy on Elise, Graves back on the CJ days, and the Rengar most famously. Gonna get some big power into the bot lane. May not be Xayah and Rakan, but just taking away the Varus Braum and going for the Ultra Comfort on Ruler. KSV has been really all at sea in terms of game plans. We saw them unable to enact really any sort of synergy between their members last couple of times out. Some of their drafts have been pretty powerful, but actually wielding them has been a struggle for KSV. If you look at Deft's solo queue, if you're like me, you were looking for Jinx games, don't find them, you'll see a lot of Caitlyn. So no surprise, Caitlyn Braum going for ultra power here. I feel like the bot lane matchup could really swing this match. Both of them play it very heavily, as that's a interesting looking alpaca.
I don't know what's going on here.
Kind of looks like Mr. Hanky, which is not what you're looking for on that one. I don't know if that's the alpaca you want. Deft didn't see it. It's fine, guys. Don't worry about it. But
someone take a picture. Someone clip it for Deft. Okay. Well, we're going to be jumping into the next phase here.
Yeah, some jungle ban's going to come through from KSV. See what Score wants to jump on. You expect a ganking or a damage jungler when Malzahar mid lane, and Malzahar's been toned down on these patches. Smeb might want to return to his Vladimir that he played for the first time this season last time out. We see a Cho'Gath ban on the red side. CuVee has been spamming the ever-loving hell out of the Scion 7 games in a row on his main account. So I do expect to see the potential Scion come out for one of these players. Smeb actually has played it recently, but interested to see exactly what we see from CuVee if it just is the Scion as the practice shows. Smeb has moved a bit more towards carries. Camille is open here. Could be considered, would be a flex pick for KT, even though Score didn't look great on it against Kingzone. So it's decided. Gnar and the Camille both open, which we saw a lot of Gnar focus in our first series. It's going to be a Jungle Jax, actually, with the lock-in here.
He's got a pretty good... Oh,
Last second
Hold that
change.
thought. Yeah, jumping on the Kha'Zix.
That was my original prediction with the Malzahar, just to have a lot of threat to the mid lane. Seems to be a bit of indecision from the side of KT. It does mean top lane will probably have to be a bit tankier as they've gone for a damaged jungler. See what KSV make of this. Won't see Camille fall through picks and bans anytime soon. This will be a top lane Camille for KSV. Is locked in as a blind pick, so Gnar would have potentially a difficult matchup to deal with. And, well, if it's CoreJJ, it's Taric, it feels like. But this draft does go forwards very well with Camille and Zach. And if they're the ones initiating, if they don't fall behind in the early to mid game, then the Taric pick makes a lot of sense. If they fall behind, it's very difficult to play a draft like KSV has. They really only go one way. KT looking for aggression. How much aggression is the question? Maybe it's back to spring 2017, everyone's a carry. As KT Rolster experimenting with the Vladimir, they're just going to go with the Gnar. A bit of a self-counter pick, but Gnars have been doing better and better in the matchup in top lane, kind of forcing Camille into a jungle role more often than not. Smeb on the Gnar versus CuVee on the Camille. Feels like KT have been showing a lot of indecision on the draft, but what they're left with is very powerful. You just feel like very centered around snowballing on the Zoe, because whenever the Unbreakable is down in the late game, people are going to be getting one shot by a Zoe.
Very true. I think this game one should be a fun one because top, mid, and jungle, definitely some areas where we could see some action. Bottom, not so much, unless someone makes a big mistake or there's a visit from the Zach on top of the Caitlyn, somehow able to get into that back line, but definitely have some opportunity for the junglers to shine and make some fire happen in those two lanes of mid and top.
Feels like KT's win conditions a bit more narrow than KSV. They have a lot less tankiness. Taric and Zach especially going to handle that burden. They have strong siege with Varus and Zoe. And then the 4-1 split push, depending on how the swingy matchup of Camille versus Gnar goes on the top side. So it's a very strong draft coming through from KSV. And when we flip over to the side of KT, they do some things very well. They still do have strong siege with the Caitlyn traps and Malzahar poking and looking for a catch with the ultimate. But they're so squishy in comparison that you feel like if ever we see a 5,000 to 10,000 gold lead come through for KSV, it just feels like it's unturnable almost by KT Rolster. So KT, it is a very KT 2017 draft. Pulling it off against KSV kind of depends on which KSV we see today.
Should be a fun one. Let's jump into game number one and find out which direction it's going to go, to KSV or to KT. Here we go, match 42 on the books now as we have begun.
Bit of a quiet chant from both sides, of course, because it was a shorter break. People still filtering into the Nexon Arena for a game that was sold out many moons ago. KT versus KSV could, depending on if KSV can rise, be one of our big playoff matches, one of our marquee matchups. The world champions against a KT Rolster team, the almost men of League of Legends in many ways. KT's lost to Kingzone, I think took a lot of the wind out of the sails of most KT fans, thinking, okay, we are significantly behind Kingzone. That was just one best of 3 in the first round robin. So we'll see if KT can also dispatch KSV, or if KSV's recent fortunes will also be turned around here. It feels like both teams are really looking for a momentum setter. We got no more breaks. We are powering through the regular season, 5 weeks of League of Legends in a row. It's always good to get started with a win.
Definitely is. We're going to take a look at some match records here. KT Rolster is ahead overall, but
yeah,
do they win where it counts?
The last one, 2 years in a row, 3-0.
Exactly.
It was 3-2 the year before. I could be mistaken on that. But, of course, the famous victory in Worlds qualifiers year on year got Samsung into both World Finals of those years. And KT will think it could have been us, but not the way with KT Rolster. KT and Suffering, name a more iconic duo. Mentioned already, it is a couple of milestones today. Deft's 5-year anniversary as a pro gamer. Seen some interesting alpacas, as we were discussing before we got into the game.
I don't know if that qualifies, Papa. I hope someone took a picture.
You know, we do have the wonder of Twitch VODs, so someone can definitely go and take a picture of the on-point alpaca. So if it's isolated in top side, my usual impression is that Camille goes very well in this matchup if she can threaten hookshot and not be worried about a counter gank. But recently, Gnar been doing better and better in the matchup. Kind of like when we had the, all right, Gnar's going to just completely obliterate Gangplank situation, and then now Gangplank kind of sees it almost a favored lane. As people got better and better on the defensive side of matchups. See what happens in terms of the top lane, but this game can be very heavily swung by the jungle. I'm watching Score. Is a great time right now as he's on the invade. They know Dazzle is down, but Score is just going to be taking away the Krugs to begin.
Yeah, you'll notice that Haru took every camp except the Krugs, and a couple of pings go down on the Krugs where they're just like, okay, that's interesting. Zach didn't do it. No full clear means that he might be somewhere else. And
this clear gets level 4. It also doesn't allow Score to rush to his blue buff and stop the double camp being taken. Haru's here.
Look at this. Smeb in a ton of trouble. The lockdown. He is going to get the hop over and still has his flash. He's going to get pulled back, though. They're not able to bring the flash out of Smeb.
Not enough damage potential this early in the game. 2 points into W, so going for the poke build here is CuVee. Didn't have the extra burst that comes through from the E. Means that Smeb is able to get away. So for now, at least, only has to invest his teleport. We'll get a second Doran's item. Gets the Doran Blade. So very much focused on getting through what can be a tricky early laning phase for the Gnar.
Trying to figure that out. Look at all the biscuits we got on the side
Look at all
of
the
KT.
spell books we got on the side of KT.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. They're like still playing 8.2 here, Papa.
This is out of meta in many ways. It seemed like spellbook bot lane for both AD carry and support be a thing of the past after the extra 10% nerf to summon a spell cooldowns. But this is all about a quick rotation. So let's see how they manage the teleports in bot side. Will it be to get back to lane and push? My initial impression I look at this is that if you think about it as Caitlyn Braum, a very powerful 2v2, against a pretty damn powerful 2v2 in Varus Taric. The only reason that you throw a curveball, it is a big curveball, by the way, guys, because you don't know until it's too late that the enemy team has gone for the double unsealed spellbook. You find that out during the loading screen, not any earlier than that. Transcendence and Gathering Storm, just to get a little bit of lip service to what Malzahar has picked. But what this says to me about the bot lane is that they want to teleport back to bot lane and take the turret. To me, this is about actually doubling down on winning bot lane. It can still be creatively used. We saw Rox, Tigers, and BBQ be really good about ending laning phase and teleporting top. My initial impression with how powerful a bot lane KSV have drafted is that KT are looking to try to play through bot side as much as possible.
Definitely maybe the case here. Crown firing that one wide, but it was interesting to me how Pawn took the boots instead of the stopwatch here, especially up against his Zoe. Decides he'd like the boots a little bit better, also focusing on a bunch of CDR and the Gathering Storm.
We're going bot lane.
The ultimate ult bot. And speaking of ultimates, he's got it. And
it's fighting time.
Yep, the flash on in. Ruler doesn't have his flash anymore. They're going to be looking for that as Pawn flashes in. He's underneath the turret, though. Do they have enough damage to take him out? The stun from Braum coming in. It is. Pawn able to pick up first blood, even after taking the turret shots for about 4 times.
I mean, they just had so much layering of CC. They needed the full duration of the ultimate to actually confirm the kill, because they needed the time for the trap to arm from the Caitlyn. They use everything. They get the kill. KT can also teleport back to lane and continue the punishment here. It's a really nice lead. Coming back to my point about the double unsealed spellbook, the reason why winning bot is so important in this particular game is consider KSV's comp. They want a Camille, a melee champion, to overextend against a Gnar, and they want Zac to come out of the darkness, out of an unwarded area. You take 3 turrets first if you're KT Rolster, ward up your camps. You no longer have to respect the Zac as much as before. I think KT have a really big emphasis on the early game. Probably no surprise when they went a no-tank lineup against Zoe.
Very well done. No ward able to detect Pawn going bots. No MIA call. Didn't really seem like they knew he was coming, even though they were quite close to their turret. Still, the kill comes through. So props to KT making that happen. Good start for them. Pawn also with the Gathering Storm. If this does go late, he's going to be pretty strong on the Malzahar. Should be able to scale up quite quickly with that first blood.
His scaling is lower than before after the AP ratio was saved. I think it's 0.15 AP ratio shaved off the Q. So given how short the cooldown is of the Q during the late game team fight, it's going to be obviously very relevant in just how much damage you can put out. But they're not trying to go ultra late game. They're not looking to get past 3 items here, I would say, for KT. They just don't have any natural ways to answer the consistent low cooldown Zoe poke after the Unbreakable is down. They have one big shield, or I guess furnace wall, we should say, here on the Santa skin here from the Braum, and after that, nothing. So, yeah. KT, Malzahar ultimate, the true story here. Pawn gets ignited, that's fun and interactive, but Haru's mid lane.
Pawn, nothing in terms of summoners here, so smart of him to play safe. You know, he'll push from afar. He is a Malzahar, he has that ability. And he's just saying, okay, I know they have a Zac who's now level 6. And if I can avoid being ganked by him while I have no cleanse and no flash, that would be very good.
Speaking of cleanse, Deft has changed over to cleanse. Does confirm that he's not looking to teleport top lane anytime soon. Wants the cleanse for lane power, and then can potentially swap into a teleport if he doesn't have to use his summoner. Very interesting to track, because again, heavily not expected to see as much unsealed spell. We have 5 in the game, which is very high after the nerfs.
Haru casually stomping on through mid lane, saying, hey, by the way, I'm here. And as Crown was looking for a pick, but Score is desperately trying to back. No one's letting him do that, though.
Warrior Enchant mobility boots is the big core for a Kha'Zix. I know this might be a surprise to some people at home, but I see a lot of people going Tracker's Knife into Boots of Mobility Rush just to abuse the amount of stealth that you get from the ultimate first evolution on the Kha'Zix from level 6 onwards, rather than rushing the warriors.
I played against that my first time, actually, the other day in solo
It really does feel like they're invisible
crazy.
forever.
He just doesn't show up until he's on top of you. You got to look for the little pixel, you know, as he comes out. It's pretty nice as a Kha'Zix.
But Warrior Enchant's much more of a farming build, given how KT's doing in the bot lane. Score can be a bit more free to move around. He can definitely solo down the Rift Herald or the Mountain Drake with the Warrior Enchant Rush, but the Boots of Mobility is kind of needed for ganks. You really can't do much else. They don't have a lot of gank assist outside of the mid lane ultimate. And top lane will be an island for Smeb. First items already purchased, though. Big first purchase for Pawn, Morellonomicon. Very early at 10 minutes.
Yeah. Got his free boots, too. So, feeling pretty good about himself. We have 2 junglers up towards the top side looking for a play.
Haru's here for the counter gank. See if he finishes the recall. He does, but Score already dissuaded. Double control ward top side for KT Rolster of the River.
Pawn's got everything up again. They can look for another pick. The TP coming in from CuVee.
It is the QSS available onto Crown, who already has his core of QSS and Lost Chapter. Through the stopwatch and QSS, very low kill potential.
Yeah.
But the control does mean that something like the next blue buff spawn could be somewhere that KT wants to try to abuse on the side of KSV.
Also the control wards on the top side. If they can somehow sneak Pawn on over to the top lane, maybe they can make a play work. Tons of CC, along with Gnar.
And let's not forget that slow and steady wins the race is kind of the KSV mantra, but definitely in this game in particular, they have so many options as the game goes on. If they don't lose their outer ring, if they lose the minimum, which is kind of a KSV standby, it's knowing when you're strong. That's kind of abandoned them recently. They've been a bit all at sea when it comes to understanding team win condition, even playing as a team. They looked very poor against SKT just a few weeks ago. If they can double down here, not lose the outer ring of turrets, and this is a pretty creative gank path from Haru.
It's all about going on Tamada here. He's a tanky Braum, but again, with the TP coming on in and
Zoe's coming
away
as well, quite late.
Okay.
Trying to end the laning phase in the bot side, but Smeb's already here, just fully teleported to stop the turret from taking too much damage.
Yeah. That was the TP that he got off of a minion, so just able to get back into the fray of things just in case he was needed. Decides to come bot instead of mid.
Was interested to see Smeb complete the teleport, but I guess with the Zoe coming in, he knew there was a chance that if he didn't teleport, they just zoned KT away from the turret and took down the objective. So I don't mind the decision. He kind of lives with the fact that he's going to lose a very big minion wave up top.
Score's got to be careful in here. He doesn't have his Braum nearby. He's thinking about a potential steal, but just gives that one away. We'll go over to Haru at least, who was forced to smite it away from Score.
Going a bit against the script, though. The script here reads KT Rolster, very strong lane emphasis. Let's take down the 3 turrets, and like I mentioned, push up vision and try to deny any equal team fights where Haru can catch people unawares on the Zac. But the strong play around bot side with the extra teleport almost was able to rewrite the script. It does delay it anyway. It does allow KSV more time to hit 1-2 item power spikes. Ruler's been able to get a Rage Blade in a pretty non-interactive game, short of being killed for first blood. So in general, things pretty comfortable for KSV, and KT haven't hit the accelerator as much as they might want. This is a good sign that they're starting now.
Just going to throw down a very early Rift Herald take. I think it was about 11 minutes 30. And it should unlock this top turret. They bring up Pawn. A little bit of a later rotation here from KSV. And that will be the first turret. And they're just going to split that gold between the 3 of them. So, bit of a late rotation. Not much that KSV can do to hop on that one. Not willing to take the 3-on-3 in that moment. So, advantage KT.
Does mean that Camille will probably no longer be able to look for aggressive trades against Gnar anytime soon. Smeb, always one of our best teleport users. Probably the only thing he has over Khan at this point, given how great Khan has been playing, is his use of teleport. So if he's able in a long lane to build up the Gnar bar and actually look for big flanking plays, then that'll suit him just fine. Gonna have to push very aggressively if he wants to stop the freeze that I'm sure that for now CuVee is enacting.
That Mountain Drake hasn't been touched. We had an opportunity out of KSV as KT was taking Rift Herald, but they decided to go for a gank on Tamada to burn his flash. That did not pan out, but they're thinking about it again. Control wards down here. Unfortunately, there is that one ward in the river that I believe saw a bunch of them go into this brush, so very passive play right now. And a frozen lane for KT means that they're safe for now.
No teleports up on the side of KT to assist, given that Mada is laning with teleport bot side to try to relieve pressure elsewhere. Means that KSV will continue to attack. I'm a big fan of attacking laners that go unsealed spellbook and just take teleport on the bot side because they have less combat summoners. But KSV don't feel strong enough to dive. That means that they're not going to use the Cosmic Radiance. They're not going to dive in with Elastic Slingshot. They're just trading farm when they're investing many more members bot side than KT Rolster is.
There are 4 control wards in the bottom side of the map currently. They're really trying to make this Haru gank work. Will this be the time? Onto Deft. He's looking for it once again. He knocks up Mada here. Nice little disengage, but the Cosmic Radiance means they want to go for it. Crown coming in. Kidnap going to miss. And now Haru getting low means that no kill comes in. Crown using his own flash to escape from the rotation of KT as the gank completely fails.
It just feels like they're having this kind of game of chicken, and KT are the ones who are winning it. KSV over-indexing. So 3 different channels of the Elastic Slingshot. The final one, so optimistic. The synergy's not there. The Unbreakable was going to answer the Dazzle if it was thrown out. KT got the Rift Herald. They're going to get the Mountain Drake as well. And if you play chicken and lose, you end up falling pretty far behind here if you're the side of KSV. CuVee got the freeze going in top side, so has been able to answer a lot of the gold lead that the Gnar had been able to develop. But that's the only good news story for KSV.
You get your Camille into a better spot, but you don't really have the option to make a play happen elsewhere, whereas Smeb has been down towards bot lane a couple of times. Seeing Haru high jungle proximity and higher ganks, but only made 1 work in total.
And not for a kill, obviously, because they have none left. So
just the flash.
Just been able to blow a flash, which is considered a successful gank according to the Spo TV system, which makes sense. But all we're really trying to say there is that he spent a lot of time around lanes, not to the profit of his team. They haven't really been able to get much out of it to justify the time investment. Would obviously would prefer to be selfishly farming. KSV still do see light at the end of the tunnel. They still do have a 3-item Zoe that can't be answered realistically by KT's comp. But if KT can continue to be on the front foot, monopolize the Drakes, the Rift Herald, get that outer ring down pre-25 minutes, then Haru misses, his next Elastic Slingshot, 2 people die, and the Baron is taken, then the game might be over. So we're very close to a breaking point here, which composition for KT is set up around push. They're going bot lane. They got Shiv Caitlyn. And we'll see if there's any punishment coming from the side of KSV.
Well, the first step will be getting rid of some of that vision. We saw it totally go into the direction of KT after they took the fight down there. Score's looking for a bit of damage here onto Crown, but he gets hit by the Trouble Bubble. Gets away. And actually, they're going for this. There it is. The Paddle Star gets on top of Score. And he is forced to burn his flash. In the end, though, seems like that's all that KSV has been successful in grabbing this game.
I think Pawn just ults to stop any chance of his jungler dying. The Score playing with fire. Doesn't get any sort of advantage from that. And like you say, good news story for KSV is chunking out the jungler and allowing them to push up vision further. They get wards onto the Wolf camp as Haru just walks up and doesn't have any threat. On this blue side, can they finally take this turret? Be 4th, 5th times the charm. Taking down a Shiv Caitlyn's turret. Bit of a struggle.
Yep, they've been having a bit of trouble. All the traps lined up. Nice bit of damage response at a Pawn, but it's getting a little bit frisky. Haru actually, nice job not going for that as they see Smeb coming on in.
There was ult cooldown nerfs a couple of patches ago, but CDR boots means that Pawn already has Flash Ultimate up. This game very finely poised. CuVee has been able to get back into it after losing his turret to the Rift Herald much earlier. It was behind in CS as well, as KT had a little control on the top side. Deft just happy to farm it up. Are they going to see a recall? I believe Infinity Edge and Static Shift going to be complete for the Caitlyn. What it all means, though, in terms of where the game is going, is going to be very interesting to me. Right now, the ward coverage tells you KT are playing defensively around their bot lane turret by double control warding around the blue buff. And that's exactly what KSV agree on. They also have all the control wards in that area. But so far, KSV's control wards haven't contributed anything because they've tried to pull the trigger and failed multiple times.
Haru didn't kill the ward. He actually gave that gold to Crown. Funnily enough, how they're min-maxing to that level.
SpoTV reads the room and shows us the Gathering Storm is for both mid laners this game. Gonna definitely, I would say, be biased towards Zoe, given Malzahar had AP scaling nerfs on recent patches.
Still strong, no matter how many times you nerf him. Remember when he was being played in the support role all the time and the little Voidlings were instant and it was pretty ridiculous in terms of blocking non-targeted spells?
There's a couple of things. The fact that you have guaranteed pressure in mid lane, you can draft a damaged jungler and feel good about it. Kha'Zix with Galio and Malzahar is so much stronger than Kha'Zix in other scenarios, so that's one place where Malzahar adds a lot. Play through mid lane so easy with his suppression, and also you got to spend 1250 gold on a QSS, which basically makes gold leads larger than they appear, because no one wants to be building a QSS after Lost Chapter as a Zoe. But being slowed down in terms of builds is also relevant. Why suppression champions, if their power level's not super low, will always be at least a fringe consideration, because they do warp how games are played.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about Skarner at the beginning of this cast and how in other regions it's been banned out a bunch, picked a bunch, but so far in LCK we haven't really seen as much priority on that pick. Another big suppression champion. Can't really do it from range, has to get in there. And
this time around, if you look at solo queue, a lot of Korean solo queue junglers are playing it. No surprise that Ambition is loving it as well. If we see him come in, the chance goes up. It's not considered first round, but you see 2 or 3 jungle bans, and perhaps it will be considered. But you're right, much bigger in the LCS, specifically NALCS, than the LCK right now. On always playing on the line of respecting a potential Zac engage, but also wanting to control the mid lane matchup as much as possible.
Score. Waiting to make those mobility boots work for him.
Actually just being defensive, though. Is just poking around, trying to allow Deft and Mata to push up. All the time invested bot side might be wasted, because the one time KT's had control, they might just take the turret. They get it very low already. Teleport ward, very clearly in the middle of the lane here for CuVee.
Haru actually gets caught in here, but in the end, kidnaps Score. The double TP coming on in. Smeb looking for it, but actually hops away. Decides he doesn't want to go 1v5 after all, and does get out of there. A very tense game, only 1 kill at 22 minutes. Unfortunately for KSV, even if they push KT away, it's only a Cloud Drake as the reward here in the Drake pits.
Very low reward, as you mentioned. Scorer is one of the few people in the game that just gets one rotation and has to back away. It's a blind ultimate there from Roller, hoping there was someone. Then it's going to turn on a CuVee.
Okay, he is going to be saved by the Cosmic Radiance, but that's multiple ultimates used now, as well as summoners to get CuVee out of dodge.
And the biggest worry there is not that, he threw out an ult, hoped for something and missed. It's that after spending so much time setting up bot side, it's almost a desperation play to throw a blind ultimate. That's not the percentage play. The percentage play was all the control wards and time Haru spent bot side. It led to nothing. Now they know ults are down and KT are going to attack.
Scorer sprinting through the jungle. He's got Pawn on his heels. CuVee, thankfully, is here. Trying to make it in. The only one who's not here is Zoe. Trying to get on top of that Taric, it looks like. Underneath all of that, finally gets taken out at the end of it all. But that was just the one pick that they needed to continue pushing on in towards Tier 2.
It's going to be the second turret at least started here. Such great siege from Deft in particular. KSV, it feels like another game where everyone's kind of on different wavelengths. They haven't been able to stick the landing on their setups. Turn on to Crown, but not going to have the damage to take him out. Whereas at least KT, they've been so much more judicious in their jungler's time especially. But when they go somewhere, it feels like they actually have the strength of conviction to make things happen instead of just putting down a ward and hitting and hoping.
KT looking a lot cleaner so far in this game. Would have to agree. We'll see what KSV can do to try to pull this one back here. We do have finally CuVee going down to the bottom side, so we will see at least a difference in terms of where the members are going to be going on this map. See if they can trade back a turret. And so far it is 2-0 in favor of KT.
Let's see how KSV rebound here, because I think the KT game plan is pretty straightforward. They've played smartly around lanes. They already have 2 turrets down. They haven't been able to push up the vision they would like, so still Zac is a bit of a threat, but not enough to really halt their playstyle. And honestly, they've played to their items really smartly. Score didn't rush Moby Boots, went Warrior Enchant. The amount they gained from taking down the Rift Herald was kind of the maximum with how early they were able to end the laning phase for the Camille, who could no longer just try to freely harass down the Gnar. Turret went down, the freeze started, and KSV never traded. KT would get something, and KSV would think about getting something. It's kind of like they were in line for a restaurant and just spent so much time looking at the menu thinking it could be, like, oh, this is looking good. They kept looking at different pages, but they never committed to anything. And now, they just don't have anything. If you don't commit to trying to trade objectives, you don't get any objectives. There are no free lunches against a team as good as KT Rolster. And now KSV, like they unfortunately have multiple series in a row, feel behind the play.
That cleanse, you were talking about it with the spellbook. Deft gets out of there because of that cleanse. Very smartly picked up very early in the game as well.
They had it from the first back in laning phase and didn't need it in the laning phase, needed it there. Didn't have to invest anything else. That means Flash's not down on Caitlyn and Malzahar. They'll keep walking up, and short of a elastic slingshot interrupting a 90 caliber net, the Caitlyn's pretty damn safe.
Another low turret. Another objective for KT to look for. Mana interrupting that slingshot. Haru taking tons of damage and even a super defensive Cosmic Radiance just to make sure nobody dies. Not sure that anybody would have in the end, but again, results goes towards KT.
It's because it's so predictable. Of course they're going to look for another elastic slingshot engage, but Deft has flash up, Pawn has flash up. They pull back, and then the kidnap was never going to hit anyone because it was optimistic to begin with. And guess what happens when the kidnap is down, the Cosmic Radiance is down? Go up to the turret, no longer have to respect an all-in because they're not going to all-in with the important teamfight abilities down. And unless CuVee can take a turret on the bot side, it's free objective after free objective for KT. I mean, it seems like a weird thing to say, but short of a Cloud Drake, it's a perfect game for KT Rolster.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a bit about how KSV sometimes look a little bit like they're walking through a fog, especially when they play with Haru. Maybe we'll see Ambition come in game number 2 and offer a bit more direction to this KSV team, because so far it doesn't look like they've had too much.
But then you think about the opposition for Ambition. The problem is that you can go very aggressive against Ambition, and he's predictable in that side of the coin. So Ambition hasn't been the bailout for them this season that he was able to be in a different jungle meta in summer of 2017. And like you say, a bit hapless with Haru in some of these recent games. It was looking much better for him when he could play aggressive, but then Haru's playing I was saying Ambition, but playing Zac.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I'll give him a chance. He's only played one career game on the Zac. And the communication for the team, you know, if they're winning and they could paper over some of the gaps in their playbook, maybe it's fine, but it doesn't look like a great Zac performance. And so far, KSV, all they can really do is back off, say, okay, we've got the outscale, we're still feeling good about the Zoe late game. They have to get to that late game, which is the big problem.
Yeah. So far, also, Zoe the only one with the QSS. Definitely some spicy targets that Juan is going to be looking towards. The CuVee on the Camille, definitely one of them, as well as Varus.
Target acquisition build also. He's gone for Rylai's Leandries, which is basically, well, if the ultimate isn't going to be the lockdown, I have consistent slows for days with my other abilities. Don't see a lot of Rylai's onto Malzahar, but in a game like this, I think it's important. Infernal's the third spawn, easily picked up by KT Rolster. Another free objective, Valdez.
That it is. Well, KSV is going to get the Rift Scuttler.
Might get the top lane outer turret as well. Be their first of the game. It's pretty high health, but they'd have to actually drag Zoe from top lane. Notice doesn't have... Yeah, he's going to go through mid because Zoe doesn't have teleport, so...
Not yet. Maybe later. But definitely does mean that they will get this tier 2.
Yep.
A fantastic trade for KT after the Infernal, picking up mid-tier 2. And not Haru. He gets out.
KT back away. They're not going to be able to have control around the Baron, but they are going to be able to answer some of the wards already put down by Haru and Crown on the last vision. So take a deep breath and a bit of an 8.2, 8.1 meta going here. A much slower game than our first series, which was kind of pandemonium on the Rift.
Yeah. It's definitely KSV's style. If they get behind, they're not going to do anything crazy. They're not going to try to attack you head on. They'll play the turtle style, wait for it, wait to scale. Let's see if they can do exactly that, because KT kind of the opposite. Going to be looking to get more aggressive. We'll see when they decide to go towards the Baron, as it's 30 minutes in and still no move towards that Baron just yet.
Because of so much farming, though, Ruler is at 3 items. So Ruler is very, very powerful in this game. Deft half an item ahead, Last Whisper ahead of the clock here when it comes to his item build. There's still team fights here that KSV should win. You know, Score is kind of being a passenger in a lot of these situations, much more about scouting than about initiating anything, and he's one of the reasons why their siege is not as strong as the enemy siege, because Zac can at least threaten an all-in, and Kha'Zix can only catch people in transition. So for now, at least, there still is the God ultimate here from Haru, a double kidnap into a Cosmic Radiance, and the team fight could be won, but for that to actually happen, you need to blow some flashes, and KT Rolster haven't had to use their summoners very freely in this game. It means the reliability of those players, which is where we've used far too much in this game, is pretty low. Something like an ultimatum would be big, but CuVee is going to be headed off by Smeb.
He'll get out of there. KSV, they just dropped down all their control wards, and they had the vision advantage, but now KT taking it back in a big way. And I would love to see inventory. This is going to be blocked here. Crown not able to put down the damage. That's the, Malzahar Braum composition there against Zoe for you. But KT had 2-3 control wards in every single inventory, and now they're beginning to slowly take back vision.
Yeah, 7 in the inventory and at least 1 on the map. It's time to be cleared away, though. So it seems like KSV have committed to battle lines, which could evolve, and their vision won't be necessarily as useful. And KT are ready and future-proofed for the battle lines to move. A second control ward invested. As the minion wave is pushed up, the second control ward is put down because they feel strong enough to say there's 2 objectives now for KSV. You have to answer a minion wave and you need to answer a control ward. So a lot happening, but not in terms of kills. Not a pretty bloodless game so far. But the gold lead inching towards the side of KT.
Yeah. Slow leak towards KT. It's very nice to see this level of League of Legends, the highest level when it comes down to just 2 kills, but all about playing for vision and considering what your enemy can do and dodging that by playing as safe as possible.
And the scary thing for a KT fan is that, you know, we've spent a lot of time criticizing KSV's plays here, and I think they've made a lot of mistakes. But given the draft, KT haven't really grown their lead short of a Infernal Drake in the past 8 minutes or so. So then you say, if you're KSV, are you happy to come into 40 minutes within 5,000 gold? They would say, yes, please, absolutely. We trust in our teamfight comp that we've drafted, and we have strong Siege as a backup as well. And that's the part where you start to get a bit concerned, because KT have played the better game of League of Legends, but they've had to because of the draft they set up. And this game really will be decided by one fight. I feel like if there's a sheer winner of a fight, the game is decided by just how much standing gold will be claimed by the team that wins that fight, the Baron buff, all the other objectives. But until then, KSV will say, if we're getting 80%, 90% of the minions against an early game skirmishing comp, we're pretty happy.
They're doing a fantastic job of controlling vision where it counts up towards that blue buff and just enough to poke on in towards the Baron, make sure it's not being taken. So far, KT haven't done any big baiting tactics towards the Baron where they just take out all the vision and say, you got to check it one way or another and then go for a pick.
Yeah, Malzahar and Braum for a bit of indirect tankiness on the Baron. They've spent a lot of times clearing. All right, we see the start here, but do they have enough damage to just burn it down?
Looks like maybe. Look at all the traps that are set up, too, by the Caitlyn. It's getting pretty low here. The disengage, too. Haru, he wants to get in, but it's too slow. Coming from the top side now is CuVee. They're going to go straight onto him. No QSS onto CuVee. That's a nice little bonus kill picked up by KT. The maneuvering and the fast Baron decision works out for them.
Yeah, a game that was begging for decisiveness. KT waits till they find their time, commits to a decision. Braum used his ultimate to force the Zac to reposition. It didn't interrupt the elastic slingshot, but by the time he actually could channel it, the Baron was gone. We know exactly how strong the Caitlyn siege is in. Braum's going to put up the shield. They're going to try and break the base, and what can KT do to stop them?
You were talking about one team fight to decide it all, but it looks like it might have just been the one Baron to decide it all, because we got mid pushing in, we got top inhibitor going down. KT so decisive in the last 2 minutes of this game. They are making this, they're trying to run away with this game right now.
You're not sure you can win team fights. Why not deny all of them is the KT mantra in this game. It looked like they might be pulled too thin, but that great decision around Baron has swung the pendulum so far one way. The KSV have one attempt at a fight, maybe none, and the game could just end around them.
Looking for the engage, they want to deny it, and tons of stuns here onto Smeb. He still gets a 2-man ultimate, and he has the GA. Cosmic Radiance comes down, Score eats a big one, but they are going to be able to pick up the top laner in Smeb at the end of it all. Nice stands there by KSV.
It does end the start of the Baron power play, but Baron is actually alive for so long. Still 2 minutes of Baron left. They're going to recall. They've already been able to break the base in 2 spots and take a single inhibitor. KSV showing a bit of teamfight readiness. The first time the Cosmic Radiance and also the Zac engage has been able to be layered for multiple games, it feels like, when it comes to the Cosmic Radiance in particular. We're going to see the replay. Smeb has the Mega Gnar bar, so he feels confident to stand up, to walk up. He's still in the base. He hasn't hopped out. Thinks he can just use the wall as a conduit, but free DPS down. KT don't have another frontliner to join him. Marta's low on mana and wants to peel for the backline instead, so Smeb only ends up being sacrificed. The mid lane inhibitor doesn't go down. KT will say no harm, no foul, just one single kill, but it does allow KSV a foothold into a game that was so quickly slipping through their fingers.
Yeah. They've grabbed this game by the horns, or by the Baron here, you could say. 5,500 gold ahead, but only one inhibitor. So let's see what else they can get here. They still got a minute left on Baron. They want another Mountain Drake here. That would be 2 in a row. You're talking about, could they do the Baron fast enough on one? Well, certainly as they get more items and a second Mountain Drake, along with the Infernal, it's going to be some fast objectives for KT.
And they're going to try and take the safest objective with the final 40 seconds of the Baron, just this minion wave, really to be able to be buffed up. They'll only force the Elder to be spawned very late in the game, but they're hoping they can end it before Elder Dragon actually spawns. There's just so many damn minions and monsters and voidlings. They're certainly going to lose their inner turret here, will KSV.
Can they bite off a little bit more? That's the question. You still got 2
seconds of Baron.
minions. Looks like they don't really want to take the chance here. Nice little crit in the face of Zoe, though. Not sure she liked that one.
Bit of her own tonic, I think.
Yeah.
If you're going to deal it out, you got to take it once in a while.
Exactly.
Continue to walk up. They put down some traps. Only ruler for wave clear, and Zach is in vision, not channeling his E. So no respect given for KT, none deserved.
Trap lane being set. Looking for a pick on the Smeb, doesn't happen. I love the inhibitor timers because we know exactly when that top one is going to be respawning. 2 minutes on that one. Seems like they respawn faster when you get the timers for some reason.
Extra information, something that you can really incorporate.
Oh. Well, it is a Braum, but it does stop a little bit of poking onto that turret. He gets a second one, actually, but at the end of it all, they still lose the turret.
And they're not even getting the unbreakable out of Braum. He doesn't need to use it till he sees the paddle star in flight. So just holding on to an important cooldown could prompt an all-in from the side of KSV. They've now lost 3 inhibitor turrets. Still have had no true team fights this game because KSV has the team fight winning comp. Still flashes on both carries. That's why Haru just keeps channeling his elastic slingshot, but just canceling.
Okay, that's going to be actually hitting Pawn through his passive shield. It's the Chain of Corruption, so no longer will they have that on the side of Varus. Crown's still a little bit low on mana here. Or rather health. They're seriously trying to push in onto this inhibitor as carefully as possible.
Smeb finally building up a bit of rage as well. Another cooldown that needs to be respected. They just flash onto Smeb of all people.
Yeah, trying to recreate the other inhibitor fight, but it doesn't happen as they lose one inhibitor. Flashes down, super minions on the Nexus turrets. They're going to get the third inhibitor here. 26 seconds on the top one. The engage is going to miss, and a nice engage onto Haru, actually. They're going to be able to burn him down, at least onto his passive here. TP will come in and save his life for now. A couple of crits onto that trapped Haru, but he does not go down. But lots of low members. CuVee getting low as well. KT were thinking about it, but decide the second inhibitor will be enough.
It will respawn in top side right now. Thanks, SpoTV, for that one. I think that's the first time we've had an inhibitor respawn,
Yeah,
it feels like.
So. After getting the timers.
But good to know, but KSV can wave clear around mid and bot side. KT, it's been so clean. And KSV, it's so interesting because you think back to this game and you're like, if you're KSV, and the VOD review will be very interesting, but if you're in between games, you only have the 15 minutes it is between a game ending and the next game starting, you think, where do we lose this game? Because the draft is very clean from KSV. It's a good draft. To me, it was just the indecision and all the free objectives that we spoke about in the early game that allowed KT to get that much further ahead, and that meant that the small cracks in the game plan here from KT, the Kha'Zix, for example, really only being a scouting tool, could never be exploited. And then it was lose the minimum from KSV, except they just kept losing. They never gained any. They just lost something small again and again and again. One smart Baron play was their downfall, but that Baron was the result of 35 minutes or 30 minutes of action previously, where they always had this negative mindset. They never took any chances, and that's why they're very likely to lose this game, even though it's been so bloodless, less than a kill every 10 minutes.
We've crossed that border. I thought we may have left that territory behind entering 8.3, but it seems like that's not the case. CuVee walking straight into some damage from Caitlyn and Kha'Zix. Means that he'll be out of the fight here just as Baron comes up. Trouble Bubbles have been on point using that terrain, but have not really been able to get any picks. Okay, that's a nice bit of damage, but again, it's the AD carry. It is Deft.
To escort him back to a minion wave, but one auto attack, 250 HP. That's, you know, that's a lot of lifesteal there with the Bloodthirster.
Yeah. Shield even helping out a little bit.
It's actually a really low damage build from Crown. He doesn't have the Void Staff yet.
Double Mountain, here we go.
Yeah, it's just
See you later.
Remember me, says Baron.
I mean,
he can't say witness me. There was nothing to witness. He was just dead.
Yeah.
And we're just not going to have a fight, guys. We might just have this game decided in the most macro of ways. You know, macro is the way to call this game.
Feels like we've been riding on the back of a turtle to get to the end of this one. It's just been very straightforward. No big team fights. No big mistakes, really.
And that was always KT's downfall in 2017 when they ran comps like this, was they would get the win to a point and then throw some sort of gold lead around the mid to late game.
Maybe that's why Deft is starting to play only Caitlyn.
Deft has been a lot better this year than he was last year, so I think his reliability to not make critical errors has been a big reason they've been able to play like this.
Awkward spot here, as they weren't all grouped up, Score eating some damage.
My kingdom for an Ocean Drake, says Score. Has to deal with the little bit of sustain coming through from the Relic Shield.
Yeah, he's got his W too.
Elder has spawned. You know, I said that they would prefer the game to be decided by now, but that hasn't happened. Trying an all-in onto Smeb, but the ultimatum take too long to kill him, and KT would push in from the top side.
Seems like KT, you know, you mentioned how it was mistakes and pushing a little bit too far ahead, but now it's nothing but careful play.
Well, there's just no easy little victories to inch forward when you're in the enemy base. Everything can be defended. There's such a terrain advantage for the defending team as Haru tries something.
They lock him down. It's the same combination that we've seen before. Cosmic Radiance, though, this time saves his life. Cleanse available for Deft. He's not even going to use it to get out of that one. Decides, no, I'll just push ahead and save it. Meanwhile, Smeb getting himself into some trouble here. Has the Guardian Angel to buy some time for his teammates to come on over. Inhibitor still up in the top side, but they want to get some kills here. Crown getting low, and the minions take him out alongside Pawn. Even the Camille getting low at the end of this one. Haru pushing forward. Now he's got no support, just a stopwatch.
He's going to try and end the game here. KT Rolster Smeb just teleports in. They're going for the end.
Here we go. Smeb coming on in. They're just looking to push everybody away at this point. Score, he wants to have some play in this game, some kills, but he just gets taken out towards the end. And they will be able to take down this last member of CuVee. Ruler still in the fountain. Will it be enough? Yes, it will. The ace comes through, and KT finally take game number 1.
Really intriguing game of League of Legends. Not for everyone, a bit of an art house film, but it was just a horror for the side of KSV. You could name the things they actually got this game on one hand, a few fingers, you know, an early Drake, a couple of kills, I believe maybe just the one, I forget now, but only one consequential kill throughout the entire game. And KT, even though their comp looked more narrow, their game plan was so much more reliable. They inched forward again and again. They were never met with any resistance. And even after a couple of mistakes, by Smeb, of course, on the Gnar towards the end, it never felt consequential. There was never the moment where the KSV fans would have said, this is our moment to get back into the game. The Zac, it felt like, never had a kidnap on a person. He had a couple of failed kidnaps, but Haru did not impress on the Zac, and we might see the rotation to Ambition, but while Haru to Ambition was something to be excited about in 2017 summer, it hasn't proved to be that this season. We don't see him in the booth just yet. Maybe they'll run with Haru again, but Haru on a Cinderhawk jungler doesn't seem like the solution to the current problem that KSV is having.
Throw him on the Rengar again, I'd say. It was available in game number 1, but they just decided against it. They wanted to have some more engage in the form of Zac. Throw him on a tank. It's not really where we've seen Haru have his success. If you're not going to throw him there, give Ambition a try, because game 1, even though it was a slow one, it was still in KT's favor throughout. They made it work up towards the end. It didn't go late enough for KSV to scale far enough, even though we made it all the way towards 44 minutes towards the end of that one. Crown looking as sad as ever.
Not a lot to smile about if you're a KSV fan. Unfortunately, it's become the new norm. They just don't seem to be in control of their own destinies, and it's the World Championship winners, Samsung Galaxy.
That it is. So guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be back with game number 2.